Welcome to the DTC Insider podcast, where online business owners come to find actionable tips and tactics to grow their businesses. Now, here's your host, Brian Roisentul.
Hey, welcome to another episode. My name is Brian Roisentul. I'm your host, and today I'm super excited to welcome Cesar Figueroa, the founder of VivanTee Golf, an innovative golf accessories brand based in New York. In just 1 year, Cesar has led VivanTee to rapid growth, establishing a presence in golf courses through influencer marketing and wholesale. Hey, Cesar, thanks for being on the show.
Hey, thanks, Brian. I'm really excited to be here and chat through the story.
So why don't you start by telling the audience more about your company?
Yeah. So my name's Cesar Figueroa. I started my career when I was younger in the Coast Guards. I did 4 years in the military, and then most of my career has been in software tech sales. So I got into golf in 2022. My friend dragged me to a simulator in New York City, and I'm obviously terrible at it, but fell in love with the sport from there.
That's right.
Yeah.
I actually have a friend here in Argentina that who started, manufacturing and selling, simulators. And it's crazy what you can do from your home, even with golf.
Yeah, they're amazing. So there's actually, in the building I live in here in New York, there's a golf simulator, and I try and go every morning. I get a good sweat in. So,
nice.
Yeah.
Did you improve since then?
I am getting better, but I still am not great. People think that, I have VivanTee, so I should be like a really good golfer, but I'm like a 20 handicap, so still not great.
Okay, that's great. So why did you decide to, make this a business for yourself? What to create a business out of, a sport that was new to you at the time?
Yeah, I think so. My second time ever golfing, I was in Denver with a friend, and I had like this out of body experience where I just felt like extremely uncomfortable on the course, like I didn't belong, type of the scenario. And one of the things that I thought of after that was just in New York, everyone is like a very unique and kind of expresses their own style in their own ways. Golf fashion has obviously exploded over the past since 2020, really, when COVID picked up. And I was just looking for golf gloves that were, I would call them like fashionable or cool looking. I think what the space had a lot of was obviously the plain white gloves, the traditional ones. But the other side of it was companies just went like on the opposite side of like putting like, crazy like flames on the glove or whatever it might be, like just kind of out there. But I couldn't find something that I thought was more like elegant, I would call it. So that's what kind of sparked the interest. I was like, fashionable golf gloves. I love the idea of it being based in New York because, most of these companies are based out of Cali or Utah on the West Coast. And I just kind of think New York City it's not known for golf. I don't know anyone on the planet that moved here to play golf, but it is known for fashion and it is known for individuality and expression. So I thought that would be a great way to lean into this business and build this like luxury fashion accessory that could obviously be extremely performant in the golf world as well.
Great. So I would love to ask you a few more questions about the innovation process. So you got, you had that idea at the time, to create these products. So what was next? How long did it take for you to create the first sample, and how did you validate that there was actually demand for what you were creating?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So I have a sales background by trade, but no marketing or creativity background necessarily. So I had to first teach myself Photoshop, which I would just watch, a lot of YouTube videos and figured out how to do that. And then I started messing around with different designs and color patterns. I came up with like 30 or 40 that I created on Photoshop. And this took quite some time, obviously, because Photoshop's not the most intuitive product. And ultimately I have a big group of friends here in New York, and I kind of I wouldn't call them focus groups, but asked like what their favorites designs were. And, I was a little less traditional in that I didn't test the market per se prior. I kind of just, took the risk and went all in, chose the 8 best designs that I got feedback from, and just went ahead and started getting like samples done. So I spoke to a number of manufacturers and I got, about 10 different samples, and then I went with the one that was ultimately just the best in terms of quality. Price was obviously, a factor. I thought in my head, like, quality was hands down the most important factor. And ultimately I wanted to, develop like a luxurious glove that wasn't just, it's not the cheapest on the market by any means, but the quality and the craftsmanship was the most important, and the design as well. That's a big thing that I wanted to set apart.
Did you need to iterate on the, the product before it was, at the level you wanted it to be? I'm asking because, we have had, many founders here in our position, in inventing a new product, sometimes a new category, and some of them, had a thorough process, and some of them just, got feeling to test the product until it was ready. Some of them define it one of them, for example, did a blind test 63 times until the customers, like I think it was 90-something%, picked them over the competitors. Some of them, again, just launch and ask for feedback. Some of them over time create a group of ambassadors and ask them about their feedback before mass releasing the product. So how do you go about it? Do you iterate a lot, nothing, or only a few times?
Yeah, well, so one thing to note was the golf, I added magnetic ball markers on it, and the thought was they could be interchangeable so people can kind of, accessorize their golf glove. And that was a challenge in that, like, a lot of the suppliers just weren't used to it nor necessarily willing to do it. So I had to get, the right supplier, but I also had to get the ball marker cavity to be correct. That took a lot of iteration. And then on top of that, my supplier that I ended up finding, like, the second round of gloves I was purchasing, I was rather intense in terms of the expectations, and ultimately ended up getting fired from them. So they're like, we don't want to work with you anymore. Just I was asking for a lot in terms of the design factor of it. Now everything's good though. Got a great supplier I'm working with today. I didn't test out as much as I think some founders may have. I kind of bought the inventory and said, let's just roll the dice. It ended up doing very well. Like, I've sold out of all my men's stuff, a lot of my women's. I'm in the process of getting, a new order in place that should arrive in the next couple of weeks. But I think one of the things that was interesting was to see, like, some of the designs I thought were going to do the best ended up not necessarily. And then some of the best sellers I didn't think were going to. So it's really cool to see, like, what people gravitate towards. And we've had a phenomenal response. Like, customers are reaching out and saying, like, when's the inventory going to get back in? Great reviews. I think that's probably the thing I'm most proud of, is every time a 5-star review comes in, I want to hug the person that is submitting it, because it just makes me feel like it's validating the idea.
Exactly. Yeah, what a feeling. I can only imagine. And what you were saying about, the product, the best performing product wasn't the one that you necessarily thought it was going to be, before releasing them. I think that happens for some reason in life with everything, right? With products, with in the agency for clients, we do the ads or emails, right? The one that we think that will perform the best, the one that we put the more time, brain, manpower into, is not the best performing one. Is the simple that we didn't think was going to even perform well. So yeah, I guess that happens sometimes, and that's the beauty of it. It's not only which product performs the best. Sometimes it's, people don't only need to get what they want, they need to get it how they want it, right? Many brands here in the pod, like big and small brands, both of them have mentioned that the customer feedback, for example, one of the ways to incorporate that is, they over time they build communities, and it helps them assess how people understand what they work, how people, let's say, refer to what they want in their own words that probably are different from the words that the brand uses, or all the benefits that the brand hasn't even thought about. So in that case, about those 80 reviews, besides, of course, being super happy about them because also all of them are great, how do you incorporate feedback from them?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I do a lot of outreach directly to my customers. Some of them I have at this point on a text basis too. I'm like just talking to them and understanding what they like and what they don't like. A piece of feedback was some of the ball markers were falling off at times for like the really strong swings. So that's something that I implemented a stronger, magnetic cavity on this most recent batch. And I think that continually just being good with being not, I don't want to say good at the customer service, but being on top of it. Like part of the thing is I do know my gloves are priced higher than like anything else on the market. So with that comes like an exceptional level of customer service. If there's any issues, I immediately will send out a new glove. I have no issues like, questioning the customer or anything like that. I just, I really want them to have a very memorable experience. And I think that that's the most important. So I'm continually iterating. I've also iterated on designs where people have like, I want, this design on a towel. So I've done that before with my new products I released. And I think the thing that I'm just most focused on is just ensuring that those customers are as happy as possible. And to your point, building this community of people that have an affinity towards your brand and they know that if they purchase a product from you, like they can trust that it's going to be a good product, or if for whatever reason it's not, the customer service will make sure that they're taken care of.
What are some of the things that you do to, take care of all your customers? You mentioned, for example, you're in touch with some of them, but do you do anything else in terms of customer success?
Yeah, definitely. I'll give out like, free gifts in some of the repeat buyers. People that have spent a good amount of money will get just a random gift and they won't know it's coming. I'll just include it in the package and it'll vary in terms of price range of what it is. It just also kind of depending on just the level of generosity in that moment. I guess I don't really have, I would say like a methodical approach to it yet, but I think I'll probably streamline that more as we grow. That the handwritten notes is important. I just write a handwritten note for every package and then just checking up with them and just ensuring that everything's good to go and that they're happy. It's hard to do that with everybody now, but the ones that have continued repeat purchases, I try to reach out to.
I think that to your point, I think that it's not as important to have a process at this stage as much as showing them that you care and you're there for them. And I think that's a great intention that you actually, implement. And that's, I think, what matters, not having the perfect process and not caring. I think the other way is way better. And just to give you an idea, and for everyone listening as well, I mentioned it multiple times in the episodes, but who knows, it must be new for many people as well. Some brands that I interview here in the pod, they do something pretty cool with regards to, customer success. One of them, of course, you don't need to do everything. Maybe you don't want to do all of them or none of them, but these, I think, that are good ideas that work for them very well. One of them is that when this brand, they record themselves while calling their customers on speaker. So they are holding the phone like this on speaker and somebody else is filming them while talking to their customers with their permission previously, of course. And they record the video and upload it on social and many times use it as ads, use them as ads. And it works pretty well because it shows one that they care and it's a testimonial after all, because in those calls, of course, they're not going to say bad things about you and you're going to publish them everywhere. It's going to be nice things, but genuine, realistic stuff that is useful for you, but as well for other customers to know as well. So that's one. The other one, as you said, is, gift with purchase for a certain tier of, let's say, VIP or loyal customers. And the other one is that, I don't know if you know the brand called Battle Box. It's
No, I haven't heard of
eight-year
that.
brand. It's they are Netflix as well. They do the battle games as well. It's like they are like, I don't know if you know about the Awesome Pod, ASOM. It's for guys, for successful people. This is one of those four as well. John Roman, the CEO, has been here in the pod as well, and he said that again, high eight-figure brand. They do what they do is something that I didn't have guessed before because of their size. They call those customers who didn't buy again after, let's say, 90 days, I think it was, or 100 days. They call them to ask them, because they sell subscription boxes, for outdoors, adventure, etc. Right? So it makes sense for them to come back. So if they churn or don't come back for whatever reason, even if they are not subscribed, they will give it a call and check in with them, see if everything is fine, why they decided not to buy again, etc. So I'm not saying that you should be pushy and salesy and try to, go after every customer who doesn't buy again. But I think it's something good to know that even the big guys in the space are doing it.
Yeah, that's I actually love that. And even I guess it could be a call from my perspective, not necessarily about why have you bought again, or just more so out of the blue, just want to check in and see like
Exactly.
how make sure your experience. Yeah,
Exactly.
that's
Yeah.
great.
In the end, how many times do we receive calls from brands we love? Like, I haven't,
Never.
right?
I was thinking that I've never in my life had a text or a
Exactly.
call
Right?
from a
If
brand.
the founder of a brand that you bought from calls you, you'll reply because it's like, hey, this is not a random or a cold call. This is, someone that shows me that they care about me, my experience, and you don't need to say anything else, right? You don't need to sell or anything else in the call. They will tell everyone they love, their friends, family about the call. Hey, remember this hat, glove, or whatever I bought from you? I, you know, I just got a call from the founder. How cool is that? Oh, what brand was that? And all of a sudden, their network is checking you out. So I think that is a good thing to do. One, because you care, and
Yeah,
second, because it has an impact.
that's a great idea actually. That I'm going to take away from
Yeah,
here.
that's the main idea. That you and the audience get ideas from these podcasts. Another one that I love, and I think that it could be a good one. The Alibaba's founder Jack Ma once said that brands need to do non-scalable actions in order to scale. Non-scalable actions in order to scale. So an example is that another scale, because guess what? Somebody filmed them with a phone and now that's on social, the ads everywhere. But second, they get to uh, engage with customers live. They can see, not only listen them, they can actually see what they do and how they react to their product live. So they sell a bag, for example, so they can see if they check out the pockets, what do they care about? They can answer questions. Don't you have one with a bigger pocket or a smaller pocket or whatever? So you can actually interact with them that otherwise can't in the online world that we live in today, right? So yeah, that's a good
Right.
one as well.
That's actually a really good point. So early on, I did, and I still work with Big Brother, Big Sister. It was important to me with VivanTee that, so I come from a Puerto Rican background, and I never golfed in my life prior to 2022. And that part of that thing of that second time ever playing, I did feel like out of place on the golf course. I do think the demographic is shifting a lot. So I did want, like, part of VivanTee as a mission, I really do want to open it up to more, less affluent people, I suppose would be the best way to put it. And the when I did this event at Big Brother Big Sister, it was one of the first in-person events I had done, and like the overwhelming response, I thought it just entirely changed the game for me. Like it was really positive feedback. I had my biggest day in sales just for people buying on site in person, and since then I've done a couple of events, but that was, I think, one of the bigger eye openers. If you can show people in person, also articulate your brand values and why you're doing what you're doing. It does, I think, really change the impact of just clicking on a website. I myself buy stuff online all the time, and I'm on e-com websites all the time, and you start to lose that level of
Yeah,
personal connection to the
yeah.
brand, another brand.
Now talking about customer acquisition, how to acquire customers. I know you are online. You do, wholesale as well. Which one came first?
Online came first, and then the wholesale. So I started working with influencers in the beginning, not paying them, just sending them product. That was also a big thing. I didn't want to work with influencers that wanted money. It was like if they thought the brand and the values that we had behind us were good enough to represent that, the product for free was kind of like where we were starting out. A couple of them went really well. Like one of them was, her name's Rhonda. She's on Instagram that I found her, and she loved everything about it. Just not even just the product, but just the story and everything. And she made a couple introductions to me in golf clubs in Seattle that ended up purchasing wholesale orders. So, you can find our gloves in Seattle. And then from my sales background, I also just started doing, cold outreach as well. And ultimately, it's like, I don't necessarily want to get into like the wholesale game of like selling to Dick's Sporting
Right.
goods, because I do also think that, I don't want to say it cheapens the brand by any means, but it does kind of offer like a different aspect of what I'm trying to do here. But I think being in golf clubs is great because, it's a way to get your brand out there. And then it's also the golf courses that resonate with what your brand is. And one of them specifically in Seattle, their whole goal in the pro shop was to, bring in these modern brands that aren't the same as, the typical Titleist and Callaways of the world, and these more niche products. And they have developed a really cool pro shop. It's over in Snohomish, Washington. It's very cool. So I'm kind of selective in terms of who I'm trying to partner with from a golf course perspective as well.
That's amazing. So you have the golf courses, you have influencer marketing, wholesale. Do you do paid ads?
I do. So I do Google ads, and that's gone well for me in terms of advertising. I tried Meta, and I know I'm missing the boat big with Meta ads because, I think my product would do well there. Going back to what I was saying before, I don't really have much of a marketing background, and I think, these ad platforms are so confusing. Like Google took me a while to figure out. Meta is even entirely different world. I was like, I just didn't know. So I was just burning money. I was just basically just taking money and burning it. So I was like, I got doing that. So I think I'll get to the point where I would like to work with an agency of some kind and get the Meta going. But right now, I'm just focusing on the restocking of inventory at the moment because we're just on back order at the moment. So don't really have much to advertise.
Yeah, makes sense. And about Meta, for what it's worth, it's the number one platform. There was a recent survey report by Kantar, this big company, and then everyone I know, clients at the agency, the guests at the pod, network on LinkedIn and everywhere else, all of them say the same thing. Meta is the number one platform for them, and it's a double-edged sword because it's a good thing and a bad thing at the same time. Most brands are terrified and want to diversify a lot. Even big brands, right? 8-9-figure brands, they want to diversify, but at the same time, it represents a big percentage of their acquisition budget, even in 2024, right? So now some brands are doing great things on TikTok as well. But even for the big brands, TikTok shines. When it shines for them, it's not that consistent. Google is another good one. And then now TikTok Shop, depending on the price point and industry, it could do good things for you, even more if you are, working already with creators, influencers. Affiliate is a different thing, right? But it's kind of similar. Of course, it's a pay-to-play thing because you need to pay them a commission, but it's a way to grow without paying for ads on the platform and only paying for the sales. So I think that's not paying for a post. That's what I mean, right? It's a commission for sale. So have you ever thought about being on TikTok Shop, for example?
Yeah, I did actually start up a TikTok shop as well. That one thing that, going back to the Meta thing, it makes a lot of sense too. It's just like Google, I feel like, people obviously looking for golf clubs or whatever, and it's like more of that pull marketing. But I think just the nature of like, this is more of a high end, like it's a little more of a costly brand. I think Meta is a perfect platform for that. So I do want to crack that code, and that's definitely something that I'm going to focus on next year. And then I have started a TikTok shop. I have not advertised on them or anything, nor have I worked with too many TikTok influencers, but also on my radar as well. I'm just trying to pick my angle, I guess, and choose at the right time. I think that's probably the hardest part, about being the solo entrepreneur is there's so many hats you have to wear. It's crazy. I thought when I was starting this up originally, it was like, you just manufacture the product for this amount and then you sell it. And it's that, it's like, I was like, I'm going to be a millionaire. But I realized real quick, like it's definitely a lot more hats to juggle or wear than I ever would have thought. But I don't regret it at all.
I mean, I think that starting an e-commerce brand is not easy these days. One thing was right after the pandemic, I'm in the e-commerce space since 2013, right? So in 2013, it was one thing. 2018 was a different thing. 2020 was a whole different thing. And then things started, going, down or being different a little bit. I gave a webinar about that to a beautiful e-commerce community a few months ago, talking about the evolution of e-commerce in the last few years and the 10 things that brands are doing to succeed. None of those 10 things were like tricks or tactics. It's basically going back to the fundamentals, to the basics. Everything you're doing so far, Like, to me, it's an advantage that you have, started, recently and not before the pandemic, because or during the pandemic, let's say, because many brands that started, let's say, right when the pandemic hit, neglected many aspects that you are not neglecting. For example, retention, profitability, right? Many brands have a lot of money, because getting, funds for your company was easier than right now. Retention wasn't a thing until last year or the year before. Nobody talked about the importance of retention. Who cared? They wanted to acquire more customers. That's all, right? So right now, everyone is talking about profitability, cash flow, all the stuff that nobody talked when it didn't matter, let's say, back then. So I think that's an advantage that you have. Yeah, there are a lot of moving parts, but you are making what you're saying on the right track. You have created a beautiful product, and you've got the validation. You care about your customers, and you're doing whatever it takes. Like, again, texting them, calling golf courses, doing in-person, events, wholesale. You're doing everything that you can to make this a success, right?
Right. I actually really like what you had just mentioned there too about, I was like, I hate that I missed the train of ecom, back in 2020, but I do agree with what you said. If you read a lot of stuff online, a lot of the people that are posting like on Reddit and stuff, there's so many people there that's like doom and gloom, ecom's dead and all this stuff. And I just find that like wild. I mean, it's not dead. It's harder for sure. I'm sure, like based on what I heard in the past, obviously it was flying off the shelf, but there's still very much like, to your point, sticking with the fundamentals, like sticking with a brand strategy and like focusing on your brand and developing around there and creating community is still definitely room for growth. Yeah. And I think it's only going to better and better.
Exactly. So if I can describe this in a way and briefly the following, and this doesn't come from me, many people are saying the same in this space, so e-commerce is growing year over year, if I recall correctly, right? But it was growing at some point linearly, let's say. It was on its way up, but then the pandemic accelerated like 5 years or so. So there was a peak there. Then, of course, that went down because it's not something you can sustain over time. And especially new brands, but every brand really, but especially new ones, needed to be handling things that they didn't care before. Not only what I just said, about the profitability, cash flow, but the commitment to content creation. For example, the importance of the brand element, caring about your customers and having a community, the owned media, having an email list, cool group, Slack, workspace, Facebook group, whatever, having a community in a place, incorporating feedback, doing meetups, doing events, doing people like caring about your, like, this is the stuff, I had the pleasure of meeting awesome founders such as yourself here in the pod, and even the really successful people like 8-9 figure founders. They say, hey, I wake up every single day. Here's one founder that recently said this. I wake up every single day thinking about what will move the needle for my business. And guess what? He's making TikToks. The founder of a multi-8 million company, 8-figure companies, is doing TikToks. The founder. Imagine telling that to the classic, worker, or to our parents, grandparents, that, the CEO and the founder and CEO of an 8-figure company could spend the day recording videos for social media, right? Because that's what makes them money, right?
Right. Putting yourself out there and continually thinking about expanding it's that whole idea of the growth mindset and never settling for less, which, can be a lot on some people who have those like type A personalities. I'm the same way. I wake up, I think about it. I go to sleep, I think about it. Also, when customers are upset, it's not all sunshine and rainbows, that affects me deeply. I've got a couple of emails of people that were upset about, a glove ripping or something. And some of them, get really upset and are very like combative. And that, I was out with my girlfriend once and I got one and it almost put a damper on the evening, you know? It was like my first really bad review. And, you know, I tried everything. I was, hey, I'll refund you. Sorry that this happened, etc. But yeah. And then so I guess it's learning to just take a little bit of that off the chin and just know that there's going to be some unhappy customers regardless of how hard you work and how much effort you put in.
Exactly. So one question I have for you before you go, actually two of them, but the one related to your company and the other one is one that I always ask to every guest that comes, which is if you have a favorite book to share with the audience, because I started that as a selfish question because I wanted to get ideas, you know, to read something different. And then I started year over year putting together a list of books mentioned on the pod. But before going there, I wanted to ask you, I know the company started, you know, a little over a year, so it's kind of recent. But if you had to start over, what would you do differently?
Yeah, I'd say if I had to start over, I would have done a better job at like doing more, I guess I wouldn't call it focus group, but outreach to understand like the designs better. That would have been important because I would have known which ones to invest more money in from an inventory perspective. And then the sizing thing was really big. And I think maybe I could have surveyed more people to understand what the sizing needs were because I really missed the boat on that. And then just having more of a conscious process in terms of how I was thinking about inventory management, which, you know, I didn't do that before. So I think that's important, and that's going to be an iterative process. But I would say that's probably my big focus area I would have changed.
Yeah, I know inventory management is a thing, you know, and I guess that you learn as you go, you know, if there's demand for one SKU or for the other, and you learn about the seasonalities for your own brand besides the industry seasonalities, like, you know, and for each product, probably there are different seasonalities. Who knows, you know, depending on the brand. So I guess it's something you will learn as you go. So yeah, it's a thing. So again, this was really interesting. I wanted to thank you for being on the pod. And before I go, I wanted to ask you if you have any book to share with the audience that you love.
Yeah, I would say Unreasonable Hospitality. It's about the crew that started up 11 Madison Park. It's one of the, you know, best restaurants in the world here in New York. It's a 3-star Michelin, and the premise is around how they're so heavily focused on their employee experience and then ultimately their customer experience. How everything is about ensuring that the customer has an unbelievable experience that wants to keep them coming back. So I think it resonates really well with e-com.
Amazing. Where can people go to learn more about you and VivanTee?
Instagram, VivanTee Golf. Our website's www.vivanteegolf.com. And then I also have a LinkedIn. My name is Cesar Figueroa. So I do not speak Spanish, as Brian asked me earlier, unfortunately, but I am of Puerto Rican background. So
you know what's funny? You know, you have I don't know if it's Spanish name. What do you know where Cesar comes from? Like the name?
Well, I'm a junior, so it comes from my dad. But in terms of like, yeah,
the Cesar,
legacy,
like from Rome, or now it's like,
yeah,
right. And
yeah.
And the fun fact is that I don't have a Spanish name and I speak Spanish, so it's like the opposite, right? I have an English name and yeah. But
yeah.
So thank you again for being here in the pod, and for everyone listening or watching this. You know, you can go and visit the DTCinsider.com, and if you click on the episode name, you will see all the show notes, including, of course, the book you mentioned, the website, and all the social handles. Cesar, it was amazing meeting you. Thank you for being here in the pod.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks. Have a good one.
This episode was brought to you by BSR Digital. We help DTC brands grow through paid ads and email marketing campaigns. If you'd like us to help your business grow, head on over to bsrdigital.com and schedule a call with us.